Jared here with CarBuzz.com, and today I am driving a 2020, yes, you heard that right, 2020 Nissan 370Z. This car arrived on the scene back in the 2009 model year, which means that this is now entering its 12th model years on sale. Very few cars, especially sports cars, last that long without any significant changes. If you really want to know what's different on the 370Z from the one that debuted way back in 2009, those little fangs in the front grille, those are now gone, and you see those little LED lights on the bumper. Yeah, those are new, and that's about it. But new for 2020 is this 50th anniversary model. I think it looks like a child's car. It looks like a Hot Wheels, like a toy. I would never buy this for myself. It's supposed to harken back to Nissan's racing heritage. There was a Datsun 240Z race car that had a livery just like this, but you are not a racing car driver. I'm not a racing car driver. Stop trying to live out your race car driver fantasies and just buy a normal 370Z. Now, the good news is there are only going to be 50 in this color. This is one of them, so you can't have this one. And then there's going to be 50 that are painted in silver and black instead of this red and white paint scheme. We're going to talk a little bit more about what you get in that 50th anniversary package, but before we do, be sure to click the link in the description to get the best deals on the 2020 370Z. Now let's go ahead and get this car out on the road. When you sit behind the wheel of the 2020 Nissan 370Z, you're telling the world, I'm driving, don't bother me. This is a completely analog experience, unlike pretty much any other car that you can buy today at this price range. So let's talk first about what you're getting with this 50th anniversary package, because that is new for 2020. So it's styled to look like the 1970 Datsun 240Z that made its debut 50 years ago. The red with the white livery that we have here is supposed to look like a race car. You know, I've said I think it looks a bit silly. So what else do you get? You get like a plaque inside. There's a little 50th logo on the gauge cluster here. Obviously the stickers, you get the red lip around the wheels, and you do get power driver and passenger seats with heating, but like basically this is based on the sport trim of the 370Z, albeit this 50th anniversary model is $2,600 more expensive, and if it were my money, I would definitely just take the regular sport trim, because that on its own adds the limited slip differential, 4-piston front brakes, 2-piston rears, which are better than the base brakes. So you can either get a 6-speed manual like we have here on this test car, or you can get a 7-speed automatic. No matter which option you choose, power is going to be the same. It's a 3.7 liter VQ V6 engine, produces 332 horsepower, 270 foot-pounds of torque. It's worth noting that horsepower hits its peak at 7,000 RPM. This is a real rever, a real screamer. And at about 3,300 pounds, you'll take about 5 seconds to hit 60 miles an hour. And fuel economy is pretty decent for a sports car. 19 mpg city, 26 highway, 22 combined. I've been getting right about that. I've actually tried to like be good on the highway, and I've gotten over 30 mpg, which is pretty darn good. You probably won't get that in a Corvette. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this car, which is pretty easy with this manual transmission. Let's turn off traction control and make things a little more lively and see how fast it goes. Got some nice wheel spin. I'm getting pretty good with the gear stick. 7 grand shift. Oh yes. See, this is a rever. We just went over a big bump. Didn't upset the car too much. We're gonna go ahead and slow it down now after doing some nice acceleration there. So compared to some of the more modern sports cars, Supra, Corvette, this doesn't feel as fast. 5 seconds to 60 isn't incredibly rapid, but trust me, it's not slow either. And with a manual, things get pretty lively. I actually really love this 6-speed manual transmission. The gear shifts are really physical. It's a pretty heavy clutch, not too heavy though. I think it's a little lighter than like a Mustang or Camaro. The gears To move the stick is like shaking hands with a bodybuilder. You have to be just really good. You might have heard there, so way back in 2009, Nissan introduced this like synchro rev match technology. So basically when you downshift like that, it's gonna rev match the engine for you. So if you're not good at like heel toe downshifting, this thing will get it for you. It works really well in practice. I actually really love the rev matching, and I've left it on. Even though I know how to do it myself, I've noticed like if you're on a racetrack with this car, the rev match downshifting is definitely going to save you if you're not super experienced with track driving. So the steering is hydraulic, which is pretty rare in 2019. You know, this car hasn't changed at all since it was introduced in 2009. So the steering is pretty darn precise. Now, this wasn't the best hydraulic steering when it was new. However, now that it's outlasted almost all other hydraulic racks, it is one of the more precise handling cars on the market. Now, at 3,300 pounds is not super light for a car this small. A Miata is definitely a lot more nimble, but it does remain very planted through the corners, although you do start to feel the weight just a little bit. There's not a whole lot of body roll to contend with. Let's see, I'm about to go through corner. Let's go back into second. Yeah, it pushes wide just a little bit, but if this is the first sports car you're buying, it's not gonna feel too bad. It's pretty good. It's a nice mid-level point for somebody who just like either can't fit in a Miata or maybe can't live with one because it's too small and doesn't have the money or doesn't want like something as fast as a Corvette. This is like a perfect middle ground for that. In terms of like driving it every day, the seats are a bit of a problem for me. They're pretty nicely bolstered. They do hug you in, but I've been playing around with the adjustment a little bit. I'm trying to like get comfortable in them. I've had a little bit of lower back pain this week, although so far on this drive, I haven't started to develop any pain, although I haven't been in it that long while we're filming, but it is very comfortable suspension-wise. So like even huge bumps don't really upset this car too much, so I definitely could imagine somebody driving this car every day. It's not that difficult to get in and out of. It does have plenty of space in the trunk, which we'll check out a little later. The road noise, a little loud, but you know, for a sports car, a Miata is just deafening on the highway. It's very hard to have like a Bluetooth conversation with somebody in a Miata, so this is definitely a step up from that for sure. Even though this car is starting to feel dated a little bit, I think there are going to be people out there who are like baffled by technology, don't want screens all over their cars, and say, I just want an analog sports car. Well, Nissan will still sell you one. And to just get on with the scope of how like, you know, minimalist this is, we're gonna now pull over and take a look at the technology or the lack thereof in this interior, because I don't think I've been in a more poorly equipped car in 2019. So now that we've pulled over, let's check out the interior, and surprise, surprise, it looks like 2009 in here, and definitely not the most technological car from 2009 either. So let's start with this gauge cluster that we have here. Same thing we've always had in the 370Z. As it always has, the whole steering wheel tilts and the gauges actually come with it, which is kind of interesting. I always found that the steering wheel kind of cuts off some of the gauges depending on what angle you put it at, but hey, that's just me. And one of the disadvantages of having it all tilt like that is that it doesn't telescope at all, which is kind of annoying. You've got this basic monochrome screen here that'll give you your fuel economy information, your range, basic functions like that. You have your rev counter in the middle, which is really cool. I'm gonna go ahead and give it some revs so that you can hear it. That's pretty cool, having it nice centered like a race car there. And also you'll notice in the middle here, it says N, that's because I'm in neutral. If I put it into gear, I'll get whatever gear I'm in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And if I throw it down into reverse, it'll put up an R, which is pretty cool. The steering wheel itself is a little different on this anniversary edition. We've got Alcantara on the sides, leather on the top and bottom, with a little red strip to let you know where the top point on the steering wheel is, and we have basic volume and different controls there. Now let's talk about the center stack, which, oh my gosh, is probably the most out of date I've tested on any 2019. This one's actually a 20 model year car. So when I first posted about this car on social media, I only sent out a picture of this basic head unit, which caused the internet to go in an uproar. I can't believe that's a 2020 model year car, but in fact it is. Unless you opt for the Sport Touring trim, this is the radio you're going to get. No navigation, no Bluetooth streaming, you just got your basic FM, AM, CD. You do have a USB and aux, those are in the center console, and you do have single zone automatic climate control. That's basically all of the functionality you get on this car. There's no screens. Oh wait, what if I pop this up? Oh, the screen must live in there. Nope, it's just storage. Nope, no infotainment, nothing like that, just storage in there. You do get push button start, which is kind of nice. Nissan has done that for years and years now, so that does carry over to this 370Z. Now, interestingly enough, this does have Bluetooth for calling. You can't stream music to it though, which is a bit weird. To set it up, I had to actually break out the owner's manual, because you have to do it via the voice command on the wheel through a bunch of voice prompts. I thought that was a little bit strange for sure. You do get these gauges up here. Those have been the same since the 370Z first came out, showing you voltage. There's a clock, there's an oil temperature gauge. Those looked really cool back in 09. I think they look a little bit dated today. And since there's no screen here, but a backup camera is mandatory on all 2019 model years and above, when you toss it into reverse, you're going to get a tiny little backup camera where you'll now see the legs of my camera guy Kelso with some of our camera equipment back there. But it's a little bit small, but hey, it works. And to be honest about this stereo, yes, it is hella basic. Even a Miata in this day and age has a screen where you can do modern infotainment. However, there are certain people out there that just hate all of those new touch screens and knobs and controllers and would prefer to have a base radio like this one and just, leave it be and just drive. So for those people, for the technophobes out there, this is going to be pretty cool. And to be honest, I've tested a 370Z with the nav system head unit. That's also the same as the one you would get back in 2009. I'd rather have this, so at least I could yank it out and put an Apple CarPlay and Android Auto capable touchscreen in there. So now let's check out the trunk, which is pretty practical. I mentioned on the inside, this is actually a pretty practical car. Not as big as a Corvette, but definitely way bigger than like a Miata. It is like a hatchback design, 6.9 cubic feet of trunk space back here. It's very wide, so you can get a lot of bigger suitcases in. The only problem is it's just not very tall and it doesn't go down very deep. But for 2020, to help cut the price of the 370Z just a little bit, Nissan has killed off the convertible model, which I was never a big fan of anyway. That one had less trunk space. It didn't look as good. Fine by me. I'm fine with them just keeping this coupe model. And as you can see back here on our anniversary edition, we've got this red tailgate area that kind of continues along the front of the car. And you do get a special badge back here that says 370Z 50th anniversary edition. So we've talked all about what we get with this 50th anniversary car, but let's go ahead and price it out.
All right, let's price out our 2020 Nissan 370Z. Base price is $30,090 if you want the 6-speed manual, $31,490 for the automatic. I'm going to tell you right now, the automatic is fine, but you probably want the 6-speed manual. It's just a lot more fun to drive and has that cool rev matching. Sport model is going to cost you $33,820. Manual only, you can't get an automatic on this trim. Limited slip differential, bigger brakes, and a spoiler. I think it's worth the extra $3,000. 35th anniversary is the one we've tested here. It is based on that sport trim, but costs you a lot more money, $36,420 for the manual or $37,670 for the automatic. If you really like the way it looks, I'd say go ahead. I'm not a huge fan of it. You can also get a silver and black if the white and red is not your thing. The most luxurious model is the Sport Touring for $39,490. It's automatic only, gives you navigation, Bluetooth streaming, leather and cloth seats with ventilation. I don't think that's worth it because that interior technology is definitely dated. I'd rather have a stripped out 370Z like the one I just tested. And if you want a little bit more performance, you can get the Nismo trim for $45,790 or $47,190 if you get the automatic. The V6 is a bit more powerful. You get Nismo suspension, exhaust, body kit, and some really aggressive Recaro seats. But I think the 370Z is a little bit old, and the best way to buy one is to get it as stripped out as possible. I would say definitely get the sport model with the bigger brakes and the limited slip diff. But if I'm being completely frank, the best way to buy a 370Z in 2019 is to get a used one for a fraction of the price.
Time to sum up our time with the 2020 Nissan 370Z 50th Anniversary Edition. No, I would not buy this 50th Anniversary Edition model. I would totally rather just get a plain old 370Z. But here's where my case in point for the 370Z goes. The Miata is a phenomenal car, but some people either A, just don't fit in it, or B, need more luggage capacity. And then there are people out there who think the Corvette is just too much money, or maybe they just don't like the Corvette, and they don't like the current crop of American sports cars like the Mustang and Camaro. Now, there is the new Toyota Supra, but optioning one of those is going to cost you about 50 grand. There really is no car in that middle point between the $30,000 and $40,000 price ranges. The RX-7 is dead. The Mitsubishi GT3000 is dead. There is no Skyline. The cars that the Z used to compete against just don't exist. That's why Nissan still sells this. I know everybody wants there to be a 400Z twin turbocharged to replace this. I'm one of those people too. I can't wait to see what Nissan has for the next 370Z. But for now, this car does make a case in point for that little niche market, and there's a reason why Nissan still sells a couple of these every year and doesn't feel the need to change it right away, which is why the 2020 Nissan 370Z earns a score of worth a look, because it still offers a few things that just no other car offers: a pure driving experience, no technology, and some people may be looking for that, and it is pretty practical. And if you guys have enjoyed this video, remember, it's not enough to subscribe anymore. YouTube just hasn't been sending out our videos to subscribers. So if you really like our content, be sure to subscribe and then hit the notification bell to be alerted when we upload all of our latest videos. And I know keeping up with all of the latest and greatest automotive news is tough. You have to check different social media sites, websites, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Why not download the CarBuzz app on iOS or Android? That's where all of our latest content always lives. It's a great way to keep up with the automotive news cycle every single day. I hope you've enjoyed this video. See you next time.